Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Zeero Xiron Free Magic Secrets Show, where we investigate all forms of magic. We talk about all kinds of things and stuff, and you know the drill, the same old shit that people are saying over and over. Hit the subscribe button, check out the book I wrote, blah, 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 check out the music I made, blah, blah, blah. Just go through this channel, hit the playlist tabs, and all sorts of wonderful things will happen to you because it's a Wunderbar platform, this channel, as you know more than anything. So today I wanted to talk about something kind of near and dear to my heart, or was once upon a time. It's a deeply problematic book. It's called The Witch's Bible, or A Witch's Bible, and it's a compilation of two books that were written previously. And long story short is it's from, okay, so when you study the history of Wicca and witchcraft in Britain and whatnot, Gardnerian Wicca kind of kicked it off, and then this guy showed up named Alex Sanders, and Alex Sanders started, calling himself the king of the witches. And then he started his own form of Wicca, which was like kind of infused with some ceremonial magic shit. It was a far wider reaching idea of magic than traditional Gardnerian Wicca kind of started with. Because Gardnerian Wicca was like totally, more nature-based. So Alex Sanders introduced a bunch of high magic concepts into Wicca. And then his branch of Wicca became known as Alexandrian Wicca. And then from all the coven making he did and the creation of witches he did, out pops this witch named Janet Farrar, Farrar. And she is the primary author of this book I'm talking about today. So she went along with the Alex Sanders circus for a while and then broke off to her own coven and their own way of doing things and their own specific slice of the Wicca tradition, because they were appropriating the name Wicca. And then they had their old school way of doing it throughout the 1970s. And then they released a book in 1981, and it was called 8 Sabbaths for Witches, and then there was a further book called The Witch's Way, and then they collected them both as a Witch's Bible. And that's the book we're talking about today. Now this, it's interesting because for Doc here, A Witch's Way, the beginning of this book, really came out, well, I guess I shouldn't even say that. Came out, central to when Doc Zeero was born upon the earth, around that time. And it's kind of been in the background the whole time, gestating things, because it's a classic of witchcraft literature and it got around. Of course, it's the Witch's Bible. It's the super famous one. So now when I first encountered this, it's one of the books that I would have owned the whole time, but the home life that I came from completely forbids such material. And rather than, I had to hide everything. So, I was reading bits and pieces of this because people owned copies all over the place. But I never thought to ever ask someone, can I just straight up borrow this and read the whole thing? Because the thing is, I couldn't even get caught with it in my backpack. I couldn't get around it. So I always had to look at this knowledge. It was like a prisoner being kept prison. No good. So long story short, the stuff I absorbed from this book, I came more from this world, this mindset and tradition. But like I said, as far as previously on the show, I've talked a lot about ritual and all the hocus pocus that goes into all the things. And, ritual is important and has its place, but it's not the underpinning everything. So a lot of these rituals in this book, like I said, I feel like a lot of these rituals are unnecessary. It's just the old school way they were doing it. And this brings us up to the point of this work being like extremely influential and important, yet totally problematic. Because in today's language, I'll just say it plainly, it's heterosexual Wicca, where the whole thing is based on the growth and interchange of the male-female energies, you know, and you can't talk about necessarily like trans issues with this book, because that was so far from like the author's minds, it hadn't quite wasn't talked about as much back then. Obviously, it's front and center these days. It's part of the thing, one of the things that are front and center these days when talking about covens and blah blah blah. Because this is an old situation where the females are supposed to indoctrinate the males, and the males are supposed to indoctrinate the females. And since it's a nature-based religion, it's really clinging to this old school heterosexual receptive force versus expansive force sort of basis. So their whole thing is set up to exclude homosexuals, basically, and by proxy, they wouldn't know what the fuck to do with trans people or what to say to them. And I don't know if they would be if this woman would be, someone might say you're a TERF, but it's, you know what I mean? It's like not even touched. So like there's a whole section in this book where they talk about how their brand of Wicca is heterosexual, and like they make a very clear point to say that they don't discriminate, they're not against anyone or blah 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 blah. It's just we're not really comfortable with it. We don't know what to do, and homosexuality is excluded in their rituals. And when you get deeper into the rituals, even if you're it isn't explicitly stated in the book, you know these people are banging a mile a minute sometimes in little like weird witchy orgies. And they're not really down, or at least these people were. So, but you got to keep in mind, Janet Farrar was I believe, a native of southern Britain. I think she was from around London. And she ended up moving to Ireland later and then calling herself the Witch Queen of Ireland. And steadily got more and more press and took that image and whatnot. So after being around for, a decade of these activities, they said, let's sit down and write a book. So that's Witch's Way, and then it became, 8 Habits for Witches, and then it was Witch's Way, and then there's other books that they produced, all which is full of exclusionary language from this old thing. So, we have to peel back, we have to go this thing here where it doesn't really ebb and flow with the politics of the modern age. So, I mean, this old model, it doesn't really know what to do, because it's, person changes their gender through, medical procedures and such, and all the things that come with that. The way they look at it is like, does that actually, manipulate or change a person's, you could say, bioelectrical charge? What is like the bioelectrical makeup of an individual, like the energies they possess? Like, does that alter? And were they born with, truly born with what would be seen as the, female biological makeup? These are all questions that are like highly charged, and people don't like answers for, whether you have to stand on one side or the other. But this book, it's like clearly an old world thing that's totally uncomfortable by even touching or mentioning that sort of thing. So you say, like, why even touch this deeply problematic book? Why don't we just leave this in the past? Well, it's important to learn from the past, and it's important to learn what you can from this book, because, as I said, it was like highly influential in kind of a standoffish way, because I could only get my hands on it so many times. And I should have just bought the fucking thing when I was like old enough to get away with it. But at that point, I had moved away from all this stuff. But I felt like a know-it-all smarty pants who knew everything about witchcraft there was to know. And I was a fucking master. And I didn't need to be in a coven, didn't need to do any of that stuff because I still feel like you don't. That's totally, totally voluntary. It's totally fine to be a lone wolf. And most witches, I feel, are lone wolves. Me personally, I don't feel the need to be in a coven. I don't want to be psychically or physically or spiritually connected to anyone. I feel like it's good to be separate, but, you know, this is a book that's all about creating covens. And I guess the importance of this is that you're going to get so much lore and so much information and so many different ideas and inspirations from this book. And it's a case of ditch what you don't agree with and maintain whatever works for you. I mean, that's the general gist you should be following in all magic. But, so I'm just flipping through this book, what I want to say about it. So it has a very concise explanation of the wheel year and the 8 Sabbats of the wheel year, the importance of them and kind of what they stand for. Now, this group that put out this book, this coven specifically, or like all their ideas, it has this whole story with the, the Oak King and the Holly King. And it has to do with cycles of rebirth and nature. And I don't follow any of that stuff. But, you know, you get past these, the basic 8 Sabbats, right? And then you get to the second half of the book. And this is where it gets interesting. It's called, it was published as The Witch's Way in 1984. And in this book, it's called Part 2, Principles, Rituals, and Beliefs of Modern Witchcraft. And it really, really, like, gives you a wonderful overview. It explains what the different degrees of initiation are in their form of witchcraft. Because, again, people throw around terms here and there, and people are like, oh, I'm a 3rd degree initiate or whatever. It might be coming from this book. People have different ideas or what they're talking about or whatever, but if people are saying they're a 3rd degree witch, that means they're like ability, they can start covens and stuff. They're like mastered it and they know what the fuck is going on. But so we get talk about how to create a book of shadows and Wiccan rituals, drawing down the sun, the 3 goddess ritual, rite of the 13 megaliths, the rituals of protection, talismans, seashore ritual, the Wiccan path. And it goes into some like really good sections. The strength of this book really hinges on this stuff. There's a chapter called The Rationale of Witchcraft, which I think is very strong. There's one on reincarnation, and for me, I don't believe in reincarnation. Matter becomes matter and becomes other things. Maybe you end up a ghost. I don't know. I assume that your energy would return to the energy. You start as a part of the universe, and then you re-enter the universe, and your energy goes where your energy goes, however it works. Talks about the ethics of witchcraft, myth, ritual, and symbolism, witchcraft and sex. And this is the part I wanted to read what they said about queer folks, you could say. So it has its own little section. And what it's saying is, we deliberately refrain from commenting on the gay covens, another particularly American phenomenon. Yeah, right. There's only gay people America. Yeah. Because we feel that we are not equipped to do so, and because anything we could say might be interpreted as anti-homosexual prejudice. We have homosexual friends to whom we related happily as people, italicized. We related happily as people, as we do to other friends, namely on those things which we have in common, our sexual attitudes not being one of those things. We have always regarded their sexual attitude as their own business and defended them against any attempts to make them suffer for it. We have even had one or two homosexual members during our coven's history when they have been prepared and able to assume the role of their actual gender while in a Wiccan context, and when their personalities have been harmonious with the rest of us. But we are utterly heterosexual ourselves, and our own concept of Wicca is built around natural maleness and femaleness of mind, body, and spirit. We are therefore personally out of tune with the whole idea of a gay coven, and would be very ill at ease if we were guests at one, however much we liked the people involved. So in the interests of pagan harmony, we leave discussion of the question to those who are in tune with it. Incidentally, we very much regret the adoption of the term gay for homosexual, quite apart from making a happy little word unusable in its original sense. It implies that homosexuals are in a permanently manic mood and therefore not ordinary human beings, which is the very charge that homosexuals rightly fight against. But, they go on to explain that what about sex magic in the literal sense? They say, as we explained in 8 Sabbats for Witches, the use of man-woman polarity in magical working is of 2 kinds. The magic of gender, which is simply a man and a woman each contributing his or her characteristic mental gifts and psychic power to a magical task. And sex magic, which uses sexual intercourse between the partners as a psychic dynamo. The magic of gender is the basic pattern of most coven working, as when a man and a woman hold opposite ends of a cord in cord magic, or men and women sit alternately in a ring for linked hand magic, or a man and a woman consecrate the wine or a working tool. It is as essentially intersexual and as completely removed from coitus as ballroom dancing. Brother and sister, father and daughter, mother and son can do work this kind of magic together, just as effectively and just as free from any improper overtones as they would partner each other on a dance floor. Sex magic is something quite different. It can be very powerful, both in its effect in terms of the intended outcome of the work and in its effect on the couple concerned, even if they have been lovers or married for years. And we would say categorically, sex magic, as such, should only be worked by a couple for whom intercourse is a normal part of their relationship. In other words, husband and wife or established lovers, and in complete privacy. For them, it is an extension and may very well be an enrichment of their customary lovemaking. For a couple not so related, it could be very dangerous indeed. If they approached it cold-bloodedly as a necessary magical operation, that would be a gross abuse of their sexuality and their supposed respect for each other. If they rushed into it with a sudden and ill-considered warmth, it could have effects on unexpected levels for which they were quite unprepared. Worst of all, it could affect them unequally, leaving one emotionally overwhelmed and the other with a burden of guilt. Sex magic without love is black magic. That being said, how can a husband and wife or established lovers work sex magic in practice? There are 2 simple ways: by harnessing the psychic power of intercourse and by post-coital reverie. And then they go on to talk about Dion Fortune and the sex magic thing. So this is just some of the very problematic stuff in this book for today's audiences, but they go into many mansions and they talk about, I believe, astrology or on running a coven. Dr. Zeero is not the guy to do that. Naked in your rights. talks about running around naked in the woods. Clairvoyance and divination gets into that. Astral projection, it's an important topic. Healing, spells, self-initiation, the witch's tools, and in tune with the land, in tune with the times, and then a very lengthy appendix section. So, I just wanted to end this by just what is on the back of the book. And it's got a bunch of bulletin points. You know what I mean? There's a mass marketed thing. So everything you need to know is here. The Sabbats, Casting and Banishing the Magic Circle, the Complete Book of Shadows, the Great Rite, Initiation Rites, Consecration Rites, Spells, Witch's Tools, Witchcraft and Sex, Running a Coven, Clairvoyance, and Astral Projection. This collection includes 2 books in 1 volume, 8 Sabbats for Witches and the Witch's Way, and is the most comprehensive and revealing work on the principles, rituals, and beliefs of modern witchcraft. Janet and Stuart Farrar, authors of many books on witchcraft, are well-known witches who have appeared frequently in the media. They currently live in Ireland and regularly tour the USA, giving lectures and workshops. So again, you can find this book very easily on eBay. You can get a used copy for around $10 or so. Highly recommend it. Important thing to my, my rearing in this world. But, like I said, problematic. Take what you can from it, and move on. That's my opinion. Learn what you can from them and move on. If it's the right thing for you and you're into heterosexual Wicca, it's hard to think that it does not have like a sort of turf mindset, considering what I just explained. So that's all today for the Dr. Zeero Xiron Free Magic Secret Show. Thanks for stopping by. Blah, blah, blah. Yakety smackety, etc. Ad infinitum. And as always, here's a hot rockin' outro just for you. Later, kids.
I got life building up inside of my head, but I'm going nowhere down these streets instead. It's a rain-swept night, I've been traveling far. No, I think I've gone down this road before. Yes, I have. I got hungry eyes and they're searching for someone like you. But I can only see the graveyard dancers who lead me down, down into the abyss. Lady of the dark star, won't you give me your sweet kiss? 'Cause far away in the night I can sense your smile. I'm hearing you laugh and I'm crying all of the while. I don't know why I need to feel you again and again and again. All my father's dreams I think you can mend. Lady of the dark star, I love you again. But I'm going nowhere down these streets instead. It's a rain-swept night, I've been traveling far. No, I think I've gone down this road before. Yes, I have. I got hungry eyes and they're searching for someone like you. But I can only see the graveyard dancers who lead me down, down into the abyss. Lead me of the dark star, won't you give me your sweet kiss? 'Cause far away in the night I can sense your smile. I'm hearing you laugh and I'm crying all of the while. I don't know why I need to feel you again and again and again. All my father's dreams I think you can mend. Lady of the dark star, I love you again. And we'll go on together in our caravan of sin. Why don't you let the wheel turn, it can take us so far. Please won't you let me live, Lady of the dark star, yeah. But I can only see the graveyard dancers who lead me down, down into the abyss. I can only see the tombstone dancers who drag me down in zero void abyss.